Hello! In this video we're going to be solving equations by taking the cube root. So let's get started. So solving cubic equations by taking the cube root, the first thing you want to do is to isolate the x to the third power. So basically you want to get all the numbers on one side of the equation and you want to get the x to the third power all alone on the other side. Then the opposite of cubing is the cube root. So you're going to take the cube root of both sides. All right, let's give it a try. Okay, in model problem number 1, we're going to solve just like we would any other normal equation. We'll ignore the fact that it's an x to the third power until the very, very end. So your usual steps. I know a lot of you like seeing these marks down the equal sign. So we'll put those back on there, and here we go. So we'll distribute, so that gives us 3x to the third power minus 600 minus 48 equals 0. So it looks like we can combine our like terms here. So 3x to the third power minus 648 equals 0. Okay, so 3 is your best friend. The minus 648 is your not so close friend. If you're x to the third power and you want to be all by yourself, who are you going to get rid of first? Your not so close friend or the best friend? And for those of you who don't know, the best friend is the best friend because of how close it is to the x to the third power. Okay, so let's get rid of the not so close friend. So now we have 3x to the third power on this side is equal to 648. Now it's time to unfortunately get rid of the best friend, so we're going to do the opposite of multiplying by 3, which is dividing by 3. So now we have x to the third power is equal to, now let's see, 3 goes into 6 twice with no remainders. 3 goes into 4 once with 1 remainder. 3 goes into 18 6 times. So x to the third is equal to 216. So now I'm going to pull out my calculator here. Okay. And on this calculator, I actually notice that there's this button right here. There's two buttons that I could use. One that has an x under the radical, and then there's a y up here for the index, if you remember that word. Index is the number that we put right there, which tells us what root we're taking. But there's a cube root button right here, so I think I'll use this button. So 216, and I'll hit this button, cube root, and it is 6. If I wanted to use the other button, you will notice something. You will notice that it says x under here, y here. Well, alphabetically, x comes first, so you would type this number first, followed by the y. So let me show you. So you would type in the x number first, which is 216. Then you'd hit this button, and you'd type in the y, so that would be 3. And it's also going to give you the same number. So you have a couple options there. So now x is equal to 6. Now there's no plus or minus with these, because only positive 6 times positive 6 times positive 6 gives you 216. If you did a negative 6 times a negative 6 times a negative 6, that would give you negative 216. Well, that's not what we want. This would be wrong. We only want the positive. So unlike our lesson previous where you had to do plus or minus for every answer, with a cube root you don't. You do not. You have one answer and one answer only. Okay, for those of you who are working on the Texas Instruments, you would have to use this button right here. So if you're using the TI-35, you would use this button right here. And what you would do is you would type in the 3 first, Then you would type in this button, and basically the 3 would be your index. So you'd type in the 3, you'd type in this number, and then you type in your 216, and then you hit enter or your equals. So this is for your Texas Instruments calculator, those of you who are using that. Okay, let's take a look at another one. I'll draw my lines down through, and we're going to solve it just like we would any other equation. We're going to ignore the fact that it's x to the third until the very, very end. So let's combine our like terms. So that's going to give us 5x to the third minus 2,876 equals, I think I'll use my distributive property here. So it's going to give me 4x to the third plus 40 plus 5x to the third. So 5x to the third minus 2,876 is equal to, let's combine our like terms here. So it's going to give me 9x to the third plus 40. Okay, so if you are x, you're split on both sides. We can't have that. So let's minus the 5x to the third power. So it's going to give me negative 2,876 equals 4x to the third plus 40. So now we're in a situation, the 4 is your best friend because it's so close to you. The 40 is your not so close friend. So let's do the opposite. Let's minus 40 from both sides. So we have 4x to the third is equal to negative 2,916. And now it's time to get rid of the best friend. So let's get rid of the 4 by dividing by 4. So let's see. 4 goes into 2 0 times. So 4 goes into 29 7 times. That would be 28 with 2 left over. So I'll put the 2 right here. 4 goes into 21 7 times. 5 times. That would be 20 with 1 left over. 4 goes into 16 4 times. Okay. And something doesn't look right. It looks like I made a mistake here. So let's fix this. I see exactly my mistake. So let's erase this and let me try this one more time. Okay, so going back, let's add these two together. So that's going to be 2,916, and we're going to divide both sides by 4. Let me try this one more time. First of all, a negative divided by a positive is a negative. 4 goes into 2 0 times. 4 goes into 29. That would be 7 times. This is where I went wrong. 4 times 7 is 28. That leaves you with a remainder of 1 left over. So 4 goes into 11 2 times. Okay, and that's going to give us 3 left over, and that's going to give us 9. So 729. That is correct. Sorry about that. And now we're on this last step right here. The opposite of cubing a number is the cube root. Be careful how you write this. Okay, and now I'm going to punch that in my calculator. So I'll pull up the calculator so you can see it. And essentially, I'm going to type in my negative symbol. And on this calculator, I'm not so sure. I think I can use a subtraction symbol, but most calculators you can't. Okay, so that's going to be, whoops, I better clear that. So it's going to be negative 729. Okay, and I'm going to take the cube root. So I'll just hit the cube root button right there. And I totally did something wrong there. So let's do this again. Negative 729. I think I was supposed to type, there we go. And I'm just going to hit the cube root. Whoops, and that was -9. So 729 negative. Oh, there we go. Cube root. And that is -9. So I get -9 is equal to x to the third power. I'm not very good with the calculator on here. Now, I will tell you, if you're using your Texas Instruments, so if you're working on the TI, you would type in, let's see, you would type in the 3, the the positive 3 for the root. So I would type in the 3 for the root. I would hit this button right here, and then you would type in your negative. Got to use a negative symbol on the Texas Instruments calculator, 729, and hit enter. Okay? All right, let's try one last one. This will be our last one. I'll try not to mess this one up. Good thing is, you see, we're all human. We all make mistakes, even your math teachers. Okay, so I would think probably distributive property would be the first thing to do. Now be very careful, this is a negative, so I'm going to distribute that. So we have x to the third minus 10x to the third minus 4x to the third plus, let's see, 4 times 100 would be 400. 4 times 25 would be another 100, so this would be 500 equals x to the third minus 12 minus 7x to the third. This is where a lot of you will go wrong. You'll forget to distribute that negative to the second value. Okay, now let's combine our like terms. So I see these two that I can put together. So that's 5x to the third. And whoops, and this guy can go in there too. So 5x to the third and then minus 10x to the third. That's going to give me negative 5x to the third plus 500 is equal to, let's see, negative 6x to the third. So I got that by putting this one with this one, minus 12. And I probably don't want to have x to the third on both sides, so I think I'll add 6x to the third. And that's going to give me x to the third plus 500 is equal to negative 12. And now I think I'll minus the 500, because that's my not so close friend. And I get x to the third is equal to negative 512. So now the opposite of cubing is going to be the cube root. So notice how I'm showing that. And by the way, it's okay if you don't show that you're taking the cube root of both sides, as long as you do it correctly. You'll notice on the first problem I didn't actually put the cube root symbols on both sides. Okay, and calculator. Let's pull this up. So I have, let's see, let me clear this. Let's see if I can do a better job on this. Negative 512. Now I'm going to have to hit enter to get that negative on there. There's probably another way to do it, but now I'm going to hit the cube root button, and that's going to give me negative 8. I have a tendency to want to hit more buttons than I need to. If you're working on the Texas Instruments, the TI, you would type in the 3, that's your index, then you would type in this symbol right here. And this should be above the caret. That's the caret symbol right there. So that's where that one should be. So look for the symbol. It should be one where you have to hit your second or your control in order to access it. So this will be something you find above a button. And then you're going to type in your negative and then your 512 and hit enter. Okay, I have a few problems that I want you to try on your own. So give those a try, check your answers, and good luck.